Hello, I'm Ben Casnocha, co-author of The Startup of You and The Alliance, and I'm here today with Brian Fetherstonhaugh, the author of The Long View, a new book coming out in about a month's time.
Yep.
Brian, great to be here with you.
Thanks so much for having me.
So the book is titled The Long View, and it's a very interesting title because it resonated with me around one of the core challenges of thinking about career strategy, which is how to have a long view, think about your long-term future, plan for the future, but also stay open and flexible to short-term opportunities and changes in the world. So what does the long view mean to you, and how do you advise people in this book to reconcile both the long and short term?
So one of the big things is that people tend to take a much too short a view of careers. When you start to do the math, this is like 40, 45, or 50 years, which is this shocking and terrifyingly long number. You do need to keep in mind that you need to stay in the game for this really long time. You're going to have to live through different companies, different jobs, disruption of your industry. So with that long view in mind, you still need to take action. You need to take action pretty much every day to make yourself ready and robust for this incredibly long journey. So that's the spirit behind it.
So when someone's graduating from college today, should they devise a career plan that looks out 40 or 50 years, or should you only focus on the next 6 to 12 months?
So I think they need to understand that it's a very long period of time, but then they need to get busy about the here and now. There's three main stages of a career that kind of fall naturally into sort of almost 15-year chunks. Again, really long chapters. But the first one is all about discovery. So I really encourage people in the early stages, try different things, discover, take on what I call career fuel. And if you do that discovery and the career fuel in a whole bunch of interesting and diverse ways, you'll build a fantastic foundation, and then you'll discover later on what it's going to turn into. But it's hard to predict these days more than a couple of years down the road. So it just needs to add up to something big. That's the point of the long view.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, the subtitle of the book, Career Strategies to Start Strong, Reach High, Go Far.
Right.
You have these three stages. So let's talk about each stage in turn.
Yeah.
So the first stage, you say, is discovery.
Yeah.
It reminds me of something the columnist David Brooks wrote a while ago, which he said you should spend your 20s, you consider your 20s as the Odyssey years.
Right.
Sort of, try lots of different things, be highly experimental, expose yourself to randomness, and then hone in on a path later in life.
Yeah.
But what does that mean practically speaking? Like, are you saying that you should spend a couple years abroad, you should spend a couple years at one job, a couple years at another job, try different industries, and then sort of in stage two is when you double down, or is it better, can you still discover in the context of a single job or a single industry or a single sort of path?
Yeah. So it's a great question. A lot of people figure that you have to have lots of tiny little short chapters. And I think people do have lots of short chapters of discovery, but I encourage people to do them in a bit longer hits. I'm a big believer that the best thing to do is in your discovery, start to create some mastery. Start to stick around long enough so that you're actually good at something. Because then it creates one of those fuels I referred to. It's a transportable skill. A lot of times you go into a job and the first year you're figuring out where the company is and where the restrooms are and who reports to whom and how to get stuff done. And then if you leave right away, you haven't mastered enough and you don't carry enough with you. Carry the three kinds of fuel I talk about in this first stage. Number one, transportable skills. This is things like, can you communicate? Are you building EQ and judgment? Are you learning how to take risks? Are you learning how to get things done? There's a whole set of skills that are fantastic, and they'll last a lifetime. They can last through different industries, different countries, different companies, and are incredibly valued. So transportable skills is one. The other one, which you alluded to, is meaningful experiences. So this is, part of it is travel. Part of it is just getting outside your comfort zone. So in that first 15 years, especially you may not have, so many family responsibilities and financial obligations, go try some stuff and look for flop sweat. Look for moments when the palms are sweating and You're going to launch a product. You're going to do something.
So
you're
you
going
said
to
look
try
for
something.
flop sweat?
Flop sweat.
Flop sweat.
You want the
I like that.
you want the fear of failure.
Uh-huh.
And if you're not experiencing some kind of flop sweat
Mm-hmm.
early on, you're probably not putting yourself out enough, and you're missing this fuel number 2 I call meaningful experiences. And then the third one is you start to accumulate in this first stage some enduring relationships.
Mm.
And I talk to people a lot. They go, "Oh, it's great. Well, I've got 1,875 LinkedIn contacts and 5,700 Facebook friends and Instagram followers." And I go, "Here's something I know because I've seen a lot of long-standing careers. Nobody stands up at the end and says, 'Thank you for coming to my retirement party. I'd like to thank my 1,865 LinkedIn connections.'"
Yeah.
They say, "There's 3 people who made a difference.
Mm.
There's 5 people. There's 2 people." So one of the things to do early on is to be able to spot and nurture some really big, meaningful relationships, those incredible champions and mentors
Yeah.
who really make a difference. It's not a volume game, it's a
Right.
quality game.
Okay, so we'll come back to relationships
Yeah.
and networks. That's a
Yeah.
big topic. A lot
Yes.
to talk about there. So we're talking about career fuel.
Yeah.
First was transportable skills.
Yep.
What was the second? It was the
Second is meaningful experiences.
meaningful experiences.
The notion of flop sweat and
Right.
taking
Which-
risk and
right.
doing interesting
Gotcha.
things.
Reminds me of the
Yeah.
Eminem lyric, knees weak, arms heady. Like
That's
that sort of
that's a
emotional
great-
temperament is
yeah.
usually a sign that you're taking the right sort of risk.
doing the good stuff. Yeah.
I think in transportable skills, it is interesting. We make a similar argument in Startup Review in which we say, if you're choosing between 2 paths, 2
Yeah.
opportunities,
Yeah.
and they're kind of all else being equal, all else is rarely equal, but
Yeah.
suppose whoever all else were equal,
Yeah.
and you're early in your career, not quite sure, you're in the discovery mode, as you say, prioritize the sorts of experiences that provide maximum optionality.
Right.
And this is why actually management consulting tends to be a pretty good thing for sort of generally smart people to do.
Yeah.
It's like if you're not really sure what you do, you'll learn a bunch of different skills.
Yes.
And you can apply them in the nonprofit sector, as an entrepreneur, as an executive, as a product manager, as a marketing person. I mean, there's lots of goodness that comes from
Yeah.
the general competencies you learn in consulting.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that idea. I'm thinking, I'd be curious in your own career,
Yeah.
if you could reflect a bit. What were some of the transportable skills that you learned early on? And first, what did you do actually in your first stage of your career? 'Cause
Sure.
now you're atop
Right.
a large 5,000 person plus
Yeah.
global marketing organization. So when you got started,
Yeah.
what were the transportable skills that you learned that were really valuable?
So first things, my career path, the first 5 or 10 jobs were very early on in my career, and it was from a snow shoveling contractor in Montreal, which is really good because there's lots of snow there. Baseball umpire, stats tutor, lectured at college. I did a startup company when I was 19 and 20 at McGill University in Montreal. And then I got into brand management with Procter & Gamble, and then went on to a long career in advertising and digital marketing. And some of the transportable skills, there's one in particular I remember. At Procter & Gamble, we were great at writing. You could do this critical analysis, which is a good long-term skill, and we could write. I could write 2-page memos just perfect. And then I went into advertising, and I was asked to speak. I couldn't speak. I was in any room with more than 2 people. I was paralyzed from the top of my head to the base of my spine. I did not have the ability to persuade in a room of more than a couple of people. And so I really worked at it. I was pathetic for a while, and I started doing more and more, just speaking and announcing people's birthdays and little things around the company, and got more confidence. And usually now you can't shut me up. So but that's been a phenomenal long-term skill.
Yeah, it's a good example of a skill, because I think the sorts of skills, it's always great to pick skills to learn that other people are not so good at.
Yeah.
Because it's just easier to hack your way to the top of the leaderboard,
Right.
as it were.
Yeah.
Public speaking is one of those things. Writing is one of those things today.
Yeah.
That it's easy to differentiate yourself. So I like that.
Yeah.
And I do think that's a theme that runs through your book, and I think through any smart career strategy, is you have to be cognizant of the competition. Right?
Yeah.
We're not building a career in a vacuum,
Right.
where it's all about you. You want to
Yeah.
be aware of what other people are doing. So if everyone is learning skill X, maybe you should learn skill Y. If everyone's having one type of meaningful experience, maybe you can develop a different sort of meaningful experience to differentiate yourself. And I imagine for you, hiring now,
Yeah.
growing your own organization, you're looking for somebody who brings something different to the table.
And it's a great point. I tell people, whether you like it or not, you're a career brand, and you're up on a shelf, and employers are shopping around, and they might pick up the box and they check on what ingredients are inside. That might be looking at your LinkedIn profile, and then trying and getting to know you and experiencing what you can do. But it is competitive. Are you on that menu? Do they even look at you and pick up the box? Do you have good ingredients inside? Do you have people who will vouch for you and endorse you? So that notion of becoming a robust, vital, fresh, long-term career brand it's a great thing to keep in mind, because it is a competition, whether we like it or not. All the good jobs, even not-for-profit jobs, they are wildly competitive, and you need to stack yourself up, not just in the context of you, but you and the other choices that employers have.
Yeah, it reminds me of Scott Adams, who created the Dilbert cartoon series. More recently, he's been on a different hobby horse, which we won't talk about. This is a non-political conversation.
Right.
But he has this line of, either if you want to be world class in terms of skills, either become like top 1% in a single skill, or top 10% in 2 or more skills and combine them. So in my own career, I've thought about my skills in entrepreneurship and my skills in writing. I'm not actually top 1% in either, but bring the two together and you offer something different on the market. Curious, for you in your career, what are the 2 or 3, or maybe it's just 1 or 2, but skills that you developed where people think, wow, Brian is, like, it's these 3 things that come together that have made him so successful?
So I would say, in looking back, that there's certain sort of integrated marketing things. I've worked in brand side of marketing. I've worked in the one-to-one deep digital and data side of marketing, and I've done it globally. So those are some things, and I think the other sort of skill that I bring to it to differentiate it is I'm a very good connector. I sort of discovered kind of late 30s that I could play on the global stage. I grew up in the Canadian business environment, which was great to give you early exposure to lots of different things. And then I started working, my first global assignment was running 1,100 people in 38 countries, including China and Japan and South Africa and so forth, and I learned really fast. But it sort of clicked with me, and I discovered that doing a connecting type job has been very differentiating for me and really helped me out.
Yeah, it's funny. We have this brick wall behind us, and an image I often give is, some people are the bricks, and some people are the cement between the bricks. And actually, sometimes being the cement is a very, very powerful place to be if you can bring people together and live at the intersection of ideas and disciplines. Let's talk for a bit about bringing people together. It is one of the career fuels that you talk about.
Absolutely.
Meaningful relationships or enduring relationships.
Enduring relationships.
So let's key in the word enduring. I think, well, first let's grapple with a tactical question that probably you and I both struggle with, and all professionals at any stage in their career, which is, once you have a set of friends, you have a set of professional connections, there's this dilemma of, should I spend more time with people I already know and deepen my existing set of relationships, maybe make them more enduring? Or should I go have coffee with the new person that reached out and go out into new networking events and meet new people? And so how do you balance, and how have you balanced, I guess, over the arc of your career, the quest to build the sort of deep, enduring relationships, the 3 people you'll mention at your retirement party, as you said, but also recognize that sometimes it's just transactional, but sometimes there's usefulness, and hey, we might have more of a lightweight relationship, but it's good because you live in Brazil and you're helping me understand something different, and part of me is interested in that, and so maybe I'm not going to mention you at my retirement party, but it's still you're an important part of my professional network.
So I think this fuel is maybe the most powerful of all, because of how it can amplify your own power and capability and happiness in your work life. And I think there's not just one kind of person. I describe it as an ecosystem. And there's a group, sort of the raw fuel at the bottom, the raw ingredients are just connections. And I encourage people to go far and wide. So yes, have a big social profile, bump into people, collide with people, introduce yourself to new people. And from that group will come another group that I call the community of experts. So let's say you have thousands of raw contacts in your email directory and your social networks. From that, you'll get a small group. It might start with 10, and mine today probably has about 150 people in it. And the nature of these community of expert relationships is, if I have a question, I'll phone you. So you're an expert in writing and entrepreneurship. And after this, I could easily phone you and say, I got a question, or send you a message that says what's going on, and I will reciprocate to you. And so this group, which changes over time, but is probably still growing for me, it's just fantastic. It's answers to questions along the way. There's a next level up, which is in your current situation. I call them the critical colleagues. There's maybe 10 people. Who are the 10 people who will be decisive in making you succeed or fail in your current situation? So it could be a boss. Often it's the boss's boss, because even if your boss wants to promote you, the boss's boss needs to say yes. There's probably a couple of peers, a couple of people who work for you, and a couple of other stakeholders, clients, for example. So maybe it's a group of 10 people. And then the next level up is that little super inner layer of champions. And it's 3 people, 5 people. It's some handful, literally a handful of people. And they're like a tailwind who say nice things about you. They like you. They like you for some reason, and they can come from all kinds of different places. It's just not just your official boss or mentor at work. It's something broader than that. So this all adds up to what I refer to as the ecosystem. And I encourage people to kind of map it out a bit. See is it staying fresh? I'm a big believer. Keep bumping into people sort of at the bottom to make sure that it's people not only of your past, but of your present and of your future as well.
It's a good point. I like the idea of concentric circles. And a lot of people on this topic, there's so much one of the challenges with career advice, of course, is there's so much bad advice. Often like step one is, okay, unlearn all the stuff you thought you knew, and then here's some replacement. Networking and relationship building is ripe with it. And even people who, try to take a more sophisticated view, they sometimes invoke this idea of Dunbar's number. You only have 150 people you can know. But in fact, it's really much more nuanced than a single number, because at different layers of intimacy, you have different capacity to maintain those relationships. So psychologists say, there's only a very small number of people whose deaths would truly devastate you. There's another circle of people to whom you might send a Christmas card. There's another set of people to whom you might connect on LinkedIn. So we have to understand that we might know 4,000 people, but at much different layers of connectivity. And your point on the community of experts, I think that's a really important idea for any professional. Who do you call or email on what sorts of topics?
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people, like your book has a lot of great information in it. I'd like to think our books do as well. But for the things that, for the real business decisions that we have to make, often we need the insight that's in someone's head, right? It's a subjective judgment call, or it's a real-time issue. You can't read it in a book, can't find it in Google. So curious, what's an example or two from you where, like maybe just in the last few weeks, where you've thought, God, I've got an issue, and I'm going to reach out to Jane or Bob, whoever, and how do you sort of, what's an example of having done that, and how did it benefit you?
So I would say I use that community of experts every single day in my job. So this morning, our company is working on a proposal to do some new loyalty marketing work. And there's 1 or 2 people, one who lives in Colorado right now, who's just a total wizard. So we're on the phone with them, and in 10 minutes, they can give me the wisdom of a lifetime of mastery and expertise. And you just go, bingo, that's the missing piece. That's the answer I was looking for. In my case, I've been operating globally for 20 years, so literally 24 hours a day, I can work the time zones. I don't need to know the answers. I know somebody who knows the answers can give me a quality answer, a wise, balanced answer, not a Wikipedia answer. And I can get that pretty much within a 3-hour period, 24 hours a day. And so, and part of it is, and when they phone me
Yeah.
or they ping me, I respond to them.
Right.
And I say, I don't know, but Ben knows the answer, or
right.
here's 3 case histories, because that creates a responsive
Yeah.
community that doesn't, you're not spamming them,
Right.
you're giving them a chance to provide an answer, and they love it,
Yeah.
providing the answer, and they'll look out for guys like you and me to
Yeah.
give them the next answer.
So how do you think about those reciprocity dynamics? Because I imagine if you had a friend who called you and called you and called you and called you
Yeah.
for help,
Yeah.
but then you sort of think to yourself, well, I'm not sure I actually need much from this person,
Yeah.
right? And I'm sure in your current position, most people, as they become more successful over time, there are more people who want stuff from you
Yeah.
than the reverse sometimes. So I guess roll the clock back to the first stage of your career. How did you demonstrate an ability to help somebody or demonstrate a capacity to be on the receiving end of such a phone call, such that you could almost buy yourself credits to reach out to that person when you needed help?
So I encourage people, take the first step, show good faith, and don't be afraid to ask for help. I have written in my career 10,000 emails that say, I need your help. And often in the I need your help memo or request, I will include something that I've done that they might find interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So if Ben's asking a question about some mobile commerce thing and you came to me on that, you could ask, help please mobile commerce respond within 3 hours or a day or whatever. And I always try and include some signal of good faith to separate yourself out from all those other people who are transactional.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to ask for something and will never give. I always take the first step.
Mm-hmm.
And Adam Grant's book on giving and taking is pretty compelling, that the people who proactively give without a big expectation that everything's going to come back in perfect balance. They seem to be successful and they seem to be very happy at their work.
Yeah.
So I encourage people, take the first step, show that you mean it and are willing to help them in some relevant way. And the chips will fall where they may. Some people are a pain and never do anything.
Yeah.
And maybe you lengthen the response time, so you have a chat with them that says, this isn't working.
I find a lot of young people at the beginning of their career say, sounds great in theory, but how am I supposed to help you, Brian?
Right.
I can think of a lot of ways for you to help me.
Sure.
But you're telling me to help. How could I possibly help you? So suppose you were at a college campus today, someone's graduating. What are some examples of ways that someone coming out of school today could actually help you to such a degree where you would be more responsive, that you would be part of their community of experts, as it were?
Absolutely. So last Thursday, one of the interns who worked at Ogilvy presented a 40-page document that she'd been working on for the previous 6 weeks. It was first-class work. I said, this is very good work. She says, why? I said, because of the footnotes. You didn't just organize your opinion. You put footnotes, corroborated, trusted sources, checked it out, et cetera, et cetera. So for a bunch of reasons. So literally, there's a person who's 20 or 21 years old, hasn't even graduated yet, is giving me something of such high quality. I will share it. I think we've already shared it with our global network on a very specific topic with a very tight brief, but anybody can do that. People in our business, young people say, I want to go see a client. I want to be at the big table. I go, what are you going to do? If you're not prepared, you're going to sit there like a bump on a log. You'll either say something that is not smart at that moment in time, or you'll sit there and take notes. Neither of those things do you any good. Why don't we find a topic that you are phenomenal at or want to learn more about? Spend a month becoming one of the world's greatest experts in that little thing. And then a month from now, we'll offer up, the client's in, I'd say, I'd like you to meet Ben, because you asked a question about millennials' view of entrepreneurship and social networks. Ben. And you've rehearsed, and you've got, that is a killer little bit of micro mastery, you can do it starting on week 2.
Yeah, I love that example because it emphasizes the importance, especially if you're broadly inexperienced or just started in your career, pick a niche.
Absolutely.
Something very micro, very specific, and go really, really deep. You can be the world expert on something if you define it in the right way.
And often it's in response to some question. It's almost like a search query. And you put your hand up. I hear somebody's asking about how dance can help people persuade better.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So you take that one on, and in a short period of time, and maybe not, you know, the heavens will open up on your first go, but get in the habit of becoming a serial master and a go-to person for things of increasing importance to your organization.
And I also like on the first example you mentioned of this intern who provided a report. I'm not sure if that was in her job description or maybe it was vaguely as such, but I always recommend do free work.
Yeah.
You know, volunteer. You might have a job description that's X.
Yeah.
Do X plus 1, and the 1 is something that's different and new, and it sort of addresses like a question I often get from folks earlier in their career is, you know, I want to break into this industry, I want to get this sort of job, but these job descriptions, especially in the current economy, will say minimum 2 years experience required.
Right.
Well, if the kind of entry-level job or the most junior position requires experience, how do you? It's the chicken and the egg. How do you get the experience for the first time?
Right.
And what I often say is, get some other job and then volunteer on the side to build some of that experience and expertise nights and weekends.
Yeah.
So if you're in marketing but you want to get into product management, say at a tech company,
start
writing product specs on the side. Take a class online, volunteer work. Call up the VP of product and see if you can do some stuff on the weekends for him or her. But that's how you break in, and that sort of hustle and proactiveness can be really, really valuable.
Yeah. Ben, I think that's great advice, which is not only to do it, but do it in a tangible way. Not just thinking about a topic. Write it down. Put it in a 1-minute video. Make it a product. You have a little 3-minute or 5-minute presentation. Buffed and footnoted and rehearsed.
Yeah.
That really stands out, not just thinking about a topic. So in addition, I encourage people, package it up as a work product, because then you can start having these tangible proof points of your mastery, and it creates momentum.
Yeah.
Because then you go, oh, Ben did that one thing, and then the second, and maybe he could also do this.
Yeah.
So it creates belief in your potential and capability. So it's a great pattern and habit to get into.
Well, I'll be curious now, Brian, with your book. Is this your first book? First book written?
Yes.
So I'll be curious now when people reach out to you, because I love to use this following technique as a proxy for research and thoroughness on the front end of a request, which is, have you read?
Yes.
The relevant book? So I imagine you'll get a bunch of emails from people saying, I want to work at your firm, I want to be your intern. It's like, have you done the requisite prep work or research before the interaction? Because the only way you can truly help someone is to understand their needs, understand what's going on, understand their beliefs, understand their set of experiences. And there's no excuse today not to have thoroughly looked them up online, read everything they've written, watched speeches on YouTube, so that outreach preferably comes from an intro. It's not cold, but either way, you are offering something that you think will resonate.
And those are just little examples of being prepared, doing your homework, making things happen. And when people ask our advice, and the ones who are prepared, they stand out. They stand out. It does make a difference. And as you say, it is the flip side. It's inexcusable to go into, especially asking for advice or access where you haven't done your homework. So I urge people, spend the time, get it right, and wrap it up in some kind of product.
So let's close with the final topic being happiness and satisfaction. I was delighted at the beginning of the book you bring it up, and then you close the book by invoking people who are often not mentioned in career books. I've read a lot of career books. Chick Metzley and Flow, The How of Happiness, Positive Psychology Movement. So I guess, because I imagine mostly young people at least will be watching this video, maybe not reading the book. I'm starting off in my career, trying to decide what I want to do. I'm weighing all these things. What am I good at? What do I like doing? What do the market needs? How should I track sort of my happiness over the long arc of my career. And I'd be curious for you. I mean, you've had a stunning career, more and more success. And as you sit from your current perch and you look back, are there any times when you wish you would have prioritized happiness, whatever that means, more? Are there trade-offs? Like when you're CEO of a big company, you've reached the peak of success in some model, are you actually happier? And is that a worthy ambition? When someone's starting off, should they say, I want to be a CEO, I'm going to change the world, and it's going to be the thing that's going to make me the happiest?
Right. So a lot of questions wrapped up in there.
Simple questions that probably is a 20-second answer.
So here's one thing. Here's 4 great questions that I am now starting to ask myself every year and encourage people throughout their careers. Question 1, am I learning? Question number 2, am I having impact? That can be impact on individuals, on the organization, or society. Question number 3, am I having fun? And question number 4, am I being fairly rewarded? And so literally I encourage people, you can either weight them all exactly the same, or bet it all on learning 1 year, or bet it all on getting lots of money because you have kids or tuition or student loans or something. But weight those 4 questions, give yourself a score out of 10 and see what total score you get. And so it becomes out of 1,000. And I really encourage people to look at that, and I've started to do that for myself. I had an excellent 2015, partly because I was learning so much, partly because I was meeting many people in the context of the book, meeting people in the context of buying new companies in my own day job. So those are 4 questions. Those are 4 great ones to ask. There's another exercise that's sort of linked to that, which I call the 100-hour test, which is basically there are 100 waking hours in a week, roughly. How do you spend them? What percentage is on work? What percentage is just on chilling? What percentage is on community, family, and teaching and learning? Those are 5 or 6 big categories. And encourage people to ask themselves those 4 questions about their happiness, if you will, career value, and then look at how they're spending their time. And so many people, this is very strong advice for people in early and middle of their career, is make sure it's almost like a balanced diet, which is 75 hours a week of work with no chilling, no friends, no family, no community, no teaching and learning, is a recipe for burnout in almost every person I know. I'm not afraid of hard work. You're not afraid of hard work. I can still work in small spurts for 80 or 100 hours a week. I still do it probably a couple of weeks a year. But it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
What is the sustainable balance? And I discovered a couple of things. I discovered not-for-profit work in my late 20s. I started working with Goodwill Industries, which I still work, and I still work with them to this day. I go there and it's like a vitamin shot. It just makes me, I contribute something, I get something. That little 2 hours has immense impact on my energy level and happiness. Saturday mornings at 8:30 in the morning, I take a guitar lesson. If I'm in town, I take a guitar lesson. And the act of learning something, I'm not a natural musician, but I play in a band, but I've really worked at it. That time, 8:30 in the morning on Saturdays, that teaching and learning is incredibly energizing to me. And so I encourage people, as they're looking what makes them happy, ask the 4 questions and then say, how am I spending my time? So and do those 2 things add up?
So that's awesome. 4 questions. Am I learning?
Am I having impact?
Am I having impact?
Am I having fun?
Am I having fun?
And am I fairly rewarded?
So those are great questions. And maybe to close the circle from some of the previous themes, I find there's an interesting philosophical question related to all this stuff, which is how much should we trust our own intuitions about ourselves? How reliable are people's insights of self-knowledge? Because self-delusion's rampant, and we have lots of cognitive biases that distort the way we think. So one of the things I find helpful when thinking about these questions, especially these really important philosophical questions, is to explore them in concert with people we trust.
Yes.
Explore them in concert with people in our network. And this is
Yeah.
probably of all those concentric circles, it's probably the
tighter
innermost circle.
ones, yes.
Because sometimes it's only in conversation or with an objective third party. The person might say, hey, you're telling yourself you're happy, but you look like shit.
Yeah.
And
you bring it to work.
Right.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you need that. And I think that's where this all comes together in such a powerful way. And you want some people in your life, in your professional life, who can engage you on these questions and help you come to some higher truth.
Yeah. And that's where, in the pursuit of these big, lofty, long-term objectives, including happiness, having those enduring relationships and a few people you can trust who will tell you the truth, but they're kind of in your corner and they're not all in your current company. And again, they represent sort of your past, but also your future. That is incredibly powerful sounding board to keep you on the right path.
Brian, congrats. The new book, The Long View, coming out in a month.
Right.
Great to chat with you.
Okay, thank you, Ben.
Take care.
Terrific.